Welcome to Trifecta Collective, Finding the Root with Megan and Shannon, the podcast, where we dive deep into all things health and wellness to help you find health and healing inside and out for now and forever.
Hello and welcome to Trifecta Collective, Finding the Root with Megan and Shannon. I am Megan Abbott, owner and founder of the holistic health practice Trifecta Collective, and this is my head practitioner and co-host Shannon Callery. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, can't wait to talk about our today's topic, hydration. It's going to be a really good one.
Yes. And, I think people can oversimplify hydration. And so we're going to get into some nitty gritty of hydration. Why is water so important? What roles does it play in the body? How do we make sure we're absorbing it? What depletes water? And we're going to see how much time we end up having. We are likely going to touch on minerals. I have a feeling that we were just talking right before we started that we'll probably have to do a second episode because we do want to do a deeper dive into minerals specifically, but I'm not sure we're going to have that much time to. But we're probably going to touch on some at the very least because there are many minerals that are required to make sure you are actually absorbing water and the water that you're drinking. So we obviously do want to touch on that in this episode. And if we do have the time, we'll start kind of doing a deeper dive into the mineral piece and some different pieces around that. We'll talk about HTMA. We'll talk about RCP. If you don't know what those things are, make sure you still listen and we will fully explain them either on this episode or part 2 of this. So yeah, let's dive into hydration. Like why is hydration so important? What does it mean to be hydrated? All the things.
Yeah. So one of the first things that we do when we're working with our clients is we want to actually see like how much water are you getting in? Are you actually hydrated? Because there's plenty of people who drink, I don't know, like 100 ounces of water a day, and they're still having all of these issues and all of these signs of dehydration, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And it can also affect your blood work, your labs. So we really want to make sure that we're like properly getting hydrated even before we get blood work done, because it does play a role in so many different processes throughout the body. So pretty much like water makes up 60% of your body. So yes, it's a big deal. It's over 50%. I feel like a lot of people don't know that, and that's a huge thing. Yeah. So there's so many processes that water and minerals in general are doing in the body. Some of the main things are that, being properly hydrated, you're going to get proper transportation for nutrients, leaving. Oh my goodness. Okay. Let me preface this really quick. I'm doing parasite work right now over the full moon, and I can tell that it's affecting my brain. So I am so sorry. But anyway, so transporting nutrients and waste in and out of the body, huge role for water here. And that's why we are so pressing our clients on, make sure you're getting even more water in than you normally do when you're doing detox work, is because of this reason alone. We want to make sure that we're able to transfer waste out of the body. Huge part of this. It also helps give oxygen to our cells, which is, huge for so many reasons.
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to touch on some of the blood work patterns that we'll often see that show up for dehydration, because I think there's a lot of value in this. And I know we've touched on this in several other episodes at this point, but we're talking about it. So let's talk about it again in case you missed those episodes or you forgot. So, we'll certainly look at, on your complete metabolic panel, a CMP, we'll look at sodium and potassium markers, and those have a variety of patterns of dehydration. It's not just like high and low. It kind of depends on what that's looking like. But those are 2 markers that we'll often look at. And certainly we're going to talk about sodium and potassium as well on this episode, because those are 2 minerals that are super important when it comes to actually absorbing water. We'll also look at your albumin. So if the albumin is starting to trend a little high, which our range is 4.3 to 4.8, and I think, man, now I'm second guessing myself. I think that's across the board for both US and international ranges. if I remember correctly. I apologize if I'm wrong on the international side. But if someone's starting to trend, 4.8 and up on that albumin, that is often a sign of dehydration. We'll also look at your red blood cell counts on a CBC. We'll look at RBC. We'll look at hemoglobin and hematocrit. And if those are trending high, that's often an indication of dehydration. Now, there are other things that can impact those markers as well that can actually drive them down into a quote unquote normal or more optimal range, but you can still be dehydrated. Particularly if you have a ton of nutrient deficiencies, that'll drive those markers down and you can still be dehydrated. So just some things to think about when it comes to like blood work and dehydration.
Yeah. So, and just like a short note on this too, which I think I've talked about it before, but when you go and get your blood work done and you're fasted, of course, like you can have water beforehand. It's pretty common for them to also tell you that you can have black coffee beforehand, like without anything in it. Black coffee is a diuretic and it will dehydrate you. So just like a side note, probably don't want to drink that before you go in and get your blood work done.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just going to throw this in now. When we talk about electrolytes, some of this stuff, it all goes together. It's like, when do we talk about it? But when we talk about electrolytes, if you're doing electrolyte packets, which once again, we're going to touch on here in just a bit, be sure to stop those 24 hours before you're getting your blood work run. Use those and usually we'll tell people like maybe even go a little heavier on the hydration and the electrolytes several days before the blood work, but pause the electrolytes 24 hours beforehand, because those can impact your labs. And once again, when we are recommending labs to people, we want to have the most accurate results we can possibly get. And that's just a little bit of a nuance kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Just some tips for, helping us get the most accurate blood work, especially for our clients. A few other things that, just hydration helps with in the body is cell signaling or cell communication. Our cells talk to each other. They tell the body when to release release different things and whatnot. Again, cell signaling is like a huge thing. That's kind of how our body communicates and functions. So that's another big thing that hydration plays a role with. It also helps protect or cushion your bones and your joints, help keep your body moving smoothly. That's another big thing. It has a huge role, lots to do with digestion. So do the mineral piece of that. Again, we could talk about that just in minerals or with the hydration, but it also does play a big role in digestion, which we'll get into that a little bit more. Helps the body heal. So as you can see, there's so many beneficial reasons to why we need to stay hydrated.
Exactly. And this is such a seemingly simple thing. And I mean, especially for me being in this space for a decade, I'm coming up on a decade here in April. Since I started professionally, in this space. And, one of the things, especially as a personal trainer, and I didn't have a lot of knowledge on holistic health, not a ton on nutrients and foods and different things like that. But one of the simplest things that if someone was coming to me and as a personal trainer and they were tired and they just didn't have a lot of energy, they had a lot of joint pain, is just focus on water intake. And man, did this make a big, big difference. Water is just so important. And I'm still, and there's no judgment on our side. If you're not drinking a lot of water, if you don't like the taste of water, certainly we'll talk about that too. But, 20 ounces. I mean, I see that pretty consistently, like 16 to 32 ounces a day for, I would say, a very average size person, 5'3" to 5'6" for a female, anywhere between 130 to 200 pounds. Like, I've seen it too often than I really would like to, because it's hydration is so important for the basics of almost everything our body does. And to work mildly optimally, we need water. and we need to be able to absorb it. And, you know, then the next question we always get is, how much water should we drink? You know, and look, there's also no great answer for this. You know, typically, like, general rule of thumb, quote unquote, general rule of thumb is take your body weight in pounds, divide it by 2, and that's about how many ounces you need. That's a real rough estimate. Hydration depends on a lot. I'll say probably a better guess is the average person probably needs between about 70 to 90 ounces a day. It is generally a good starting point.
Yeah, I agree. I don't love that the half your body weight rule, which we did learn about in the program that we went through, but I've seen more updated research on it now, and it sounds like, you know, of course, like we said, that's not the standalone thing for everyone, is split your body weight in half. There's so many factors that play into this, like what are your activity levels? What type of environment are you living in? You know, for instance, I'm in Texas. During the summer, it gets super hot, so I'm naturally going to drink more water because I'm sweating more. Kind of the same thing with exercise. Like if you're sweating, you're letting go of some of those minerals, especially sodium. So you're going to be more thirsty. Your body wants to replenish that. There's just, if you're detoxing, again, you're going to want to drink more water to help flush some of that stuff out. So it's just really different for everyone. There's no general, like, we all need 80 ounces, but I do feel pretty comfortable saying like 70 to 90 ounces. If you're getting that much water in, you should be doing pretty good.
Yeah, as long as you are absorbing it, which is also another really big thing. You know, especially just because I've been living in this the last several months, you know, altitude. If you live in a place with it and you are in high altitude, I mean, especially for me, like coming in and out of Colorado, which was anywhere between like 6,000, 6,500 feet above sea level. Oh, yeah. I mean, you feel it. I went to the Grand Canyon last weekend, and I'm sitting, I think right now I'm sitting at about 3,000, 3,500 feet above sea level, and went up to 7, and then hiked down the canyon about 1,500 feet, and then came back up in a matter of like 2.5 hours. Like, you know, like my hydration, I was very conscious, and I still, like, look, I still had a headache. I still had like, I mean, my body is still recovering. It is Wednesday currently. This was Saturday. My body's still recovering a little bit from that experience. And so just like be really mindful of just, I mean, there's a lot of things that impact our hydration needs. And, you know, even for me, like in these dry climates, I've been mostly in like the Midwest drier type of climates that especially more so than I'm used to, because I grew up on the East Coast, and I grew up in places that had really high humidity pretty consistently throughout the entire year. And then to go from that to, I don't think I can't remember the last time I saw rain. So it's a pretty darn dry climate. I probably need some extra hydration. Yes, I'm further above, you know, my elevation's a little bit higher, but also I'm in a super dry climate, and it's winter. So my skin is naturally going to be drier. It's going to need some extra hydration, extra moisture, and water comes into play really big here.
Yeah. So then when we think about the minerals that are important, the electrolytes when it comes to hydration, sodium, potassium, and magnesium are going to be like the big 3 that we really want to focus on when it comes to making sure our body is getting hydrated, because we can be drinking all the water that we want, but if we're missing those things, we're not actually getting hydrated.
Yeah. And if your urine, this is like a really good test. If your urine is, I'm having issues today too, apparently. If your urine is totally clear, that's actually a sign that you're not absorbing your water and you are, quote unquote, potentially overhydrated. Usually it's an absorption issue, meaning you're not actually absorbing the water that you're drinking, and it's literally going right through you. And you know, one thing I noticed when I really started prioritizing minerals in my water is I actually didn't need as much water. I used to be the personal trainer, fitness person, a gallon plus a day. And I mean, I am only 5'5". I am not that tall, and I definitely do, on an average day, do not need a gallon of water. And since, it's been years at this point, but when I really started focusing on the mineral piece of this and understanding this, I don't drink as much water. I don't need. I typically drink about 60 to 80 ounces, depending on the day, depending on what I'm doing and all the things like that, how much coffee I drink. So, there's a lot of factors that go in here. Did I work out? Did I not? Did I come in the sauna? All of those things play a really big role. So, but yeah, your urine should be like a light yellow is like a really good indication that you're fairly well hydrated.
Yeah. And we'll get into more specifics of signs of dehydration and hydration in a second here. But I want to talk about the roles of electrolytes, what they do in the body for us besides actually keeping us hydrated. So it also helps maintain your body's pH or your blood pH, which is a huge thing. They carry an electrical current throughout the body, so that I feel like that's we could go down a lot of rabbit holes with that. So just as a basic statement, that is part of what they do. And then they are also cofactors for optimal enzyme activity. Again, when we get into talking about like the ratios of the minerals, that might not happen on this podcast, maybe the next one, but we'll get into that a little bit deeper because there's so many different ratios when it comes to like sodium and potassium and magnesium, and just focusing on that ratio itself is connected to so many different parts of the body, like thyroid and whatnot. So we'll get a little bit deeper into that maybe in the next episode.
Yeah. And when you're thinking about electrolytes, a couple of things to think about. One, if you do eat more processed foods and listen to other episodes where we talk about whole foods versus processed foods, but if you're eating a lot of things in packages, you may not need, depending on the person, extra electrolytes because most of the packaged foods are going to be fortified with nutrients, including electrolytes. So likely you may not. When you switch from more of this processed food, packaged food to more whole nutrient dense food, real food, we think foods with 1 to 2 ingredients, broccoli, cauliflower, apples, chicken, things like that, we're not getting. And this can be a really big issue. This was a really big issue for me. It took me a long time to get my sodium levels back to a more optimal place after starting on my first elimination diet and going really hard into the whole food plus elimination thing. Plus I was detoxing. Plus I was doing killing work in my body. And I was also on 33 supplements at that time. So, other feelings on that too. But, it's a really big issue. And it's something to understand that when you do make that transition, we need these electrolytes, and we really can be a challenge to get them. So if you do eat mostly whole foods or are in that process of transitioning or even like 50-50, electrolytes are probably going to be necessary and probably, this isn't 100%, but probably wouldn't hurt. And one of the best things one of the best, easiest, cheapest ways to do this is add a pinch of sea salt to your water. You really it should not taste salty. If it tastes salty, it's too much. You put too much in there. It really should just be like a pinch. And this is going to give you some extra electrolytes, some extra minerals to help you absorb the water. Kind of a couple of our favorites, Himalayan sea salt, Redmond's sea salt. You can also refer back to, I think it's our last episode, one of the last couple episodes that Shannon and I did together. We talked about the organic versus inorganic heavy metals. I'm not going to do the whole explanation again, but it's fine. Redmond sea salt is fine. I use it all the time. All the research is showing that it is fine when you look at the organic versus inorganic heavy metals there. So that's a really, really simple way. A couple other brands that I have used and do like. There's quite a few out there, just by the way. I'm going to name my top 2. Shannon, I know you probably got a few other ones too, but LMNT or Element It is a good one. I think that's a good one if you are sweating a lot. And you are eating very, very, very clean. The sodium content in that is a little high, which once again, depending on the person, can be necessary. So I think it is good, and just be mindful of that. The other one that I really like that's a little bit newer to the market and isn't a knockoff of Element, but it was looking to make a little bit of a better ratio between that sodium and potassium, with some of their flavoring is a little bit different too, but salty, or salt, SALTT. That's the one that I typically have on hand and I use the most. Now, depending on where I am in the summer, if I'm in a really hot place, now I may go back to Element. It kind of just depends on how much I'm sweating, how much I'm excreting, what does my activity level look like? Right now, I feel really good on just the salt brand. And once again, I like the sodium and potassium ratio just a little bit better for me. So those are two good options. By the way, we also have no like direct affiliation with either one. Those are just personal preferences as far as we know.
Yeah. And I don't know if you've seen this. I know Element Tea is getting like, I feel like they're blowing up right now. Like people are not, I've seen lots of things about it, but I think it's also important to understand, yes, it is a higher sodium ratio. But again, if you're a person who's working out really hard, you're sweating a lot, you know, you may need that. And most of the people I know who drink Element Tea are not drinking the whole packet at one time. Usually they're doing like half of it. So I just feel like there's other things that we need to like bring to light to pay attention to. And again, not one product is going to be great for every single person. That's why there's different products on the market with different ratios. I know Paleo Valley. Yeah, I think that's it. They make an electrolyte blend. That's a pretty decent one. So I wanted to back up and mention this too really quick. So we talked about, or Megan had mentioned some things, you know, regarding like if we're sweating too much, we need to replace the minerals and whatnot. Also, if you are high stress, maybe dealing with like trauma recovery, just trying to regulate your nervous system, going through a divorce, whatever, so all these stressful events that we have, first things to go are going to be some of those minerals in your body. So like sodium, magnesium, potassium. It's really important in high stress situations that we also use electrolytes to replace those in our body. I'm sure that you have heard of adrenal cocktails, and that's why people like to add those in during high times of stress, is because it's replacing all of those things in your body. So just like another little snippet, if you're super stressed out, you could probably benefit from some of these minerals as well.
Yeah, and I'm gonna touch on both of these things that you touched on, because I thank you for bringing up the Element Tea, the Element stuff. And just for reference, I drink the plain stuff. I hate flavoring so much. I do not like stevia. I do not like the taste of it. If I'm gonna do a sweetener in a drink, it needs to be monk fruit, and even then, like, it's very, very sweet for me. I'm not a super sweet person, and I love water. Like, I love the taste of water, and I do not want it flavored. So that is a personal preference, and a lot of the Element kind of like pushback, some of it's on the sodium and potassium ratio. A lot of it seems to be on some of the ingredients, and where these ingredients are coming from with the flavors. So just some things to think about. I've looked at some of this stuff. I haven't done a deep dive once again. If you don't need flavoring, like, don't. It's, water tastes good when you start to get used to it. And there is a little bit of an adjustment period. And we don't need everything to taste like fruit juice. You will be okay, I promise. It is just an adjustment period. And you can add some berries and things like that. Cucumbers, if you want some good natural flavoring. That I am going to touch on lemon and lime here too, because there's an important note here. If you are a person who likes water with lemon and or lime, or if you've ever been recommended this for detox or for your minerals. So I'm going to write that down so I do not forget. My list is getting long here. Okay, so yeah, the ingredients seem to be okay, generally speaking. All the answers that I've seen come back from Element seem to be okay from what I've seen. Once again, I have not done the deepest dive. The plain one is quite good. Still a fan of that, and I still would use it personally, based on everything that I've seen. But yes, thank you for bringing that up. The adrenal cocktail piece. So there's another woman in our space called, her name is Noelle Tarr. She runs a company called Coconuts and Kettlebells. Big fan of her. I was on her podcast like way back in the day. And she has a bunch of recipes. All of her recipes, by the way, are super, super good. I think it's coconutsandkettlebells.com. Maybe we'll put a link, in the comment here or in the show notes. Yeah. And, but she has a whole page on quite the variety of adrenal cocktail recipes. If you like orange juice, if you don't like orange juice, because the standard one is usually orange juice, cream of tartar, and like sea salt. That's like the most basic form to get sodium, potassium, and whole food vitamin C, which is where the orange juice comes in. But there's a lot of ways to make it, and she has some really, really good and tasty recipes. So I highly recommend her page. And maybe we'll put the adrenal cocktail link right in the show notes. And then once again, her recipes are all just like quite good. Yeah. I've made a lot of them. So yeah.
And I think too, like if you are looking for a electrolyte packet, across the board, we generally recommend getting one that is not flavored. And then, like we said, you can always add, you can do like mashed or muddled raspberries in your water. You can do cucumber mint. I love that combination of cucumber and mint. There's so many other things that we can try. If you really feel like you want some flavor in there, going that route is a great option. You can also, which she might have this on her website, like a homemade Gatorade mix.
Great question. You can make a homemade one. Don't know if I've seen hers specifically, but she might have it.
Yeah, and that's super simple. So I actually do like an electrolyte mix myself. I don't do it in the winter, but in the summer I do it. And then if I want to make it into like a Gatorade type drink, I'll usually just put like some honey in it, some sort of like fruit muddled to get some flavor in it, and put like a scoop of the electrolyte mix in there. And it's pretty easy to do. Is it a little bit more time consuming than going to the store and buying a Gatorade? Yes. But this is also like the better option for our body. I mean, if you really want the color, you can like put a scoop of spirulina powder in there, get it like that blue Gatorade color. There's just other options that are really, really good for your body if you do want that flavor in there.
Yeah, exactly. And once again, a pinch of sea salt for most people is going to be enough. So like, do not think you have to like go out and buy anything other than like a bag of sea salt. And I mean, I cook with sea salt. I put it in my water. I mean, I do a whole bunch of things with it, and my bags last. So, and they're not that expensive. So well worth it, in my opinion. And that is, once again, often enough. That is enough for most people here. So, the other thing just with adrenal cocktails. So I am a big fan of adrenal cocktails. I am also like pretty lazy, as a person when it comes to certain things in my life. Supplements are one of them. Once again, I don't like orange juice. I like a slow morning. I don't want to do anything. Like, I don't want to have to like make something in the morning. Like that is not appealing for me. So I use Jigsaw Health has a pre-made formula for adrenal cocktails that, look, no, it doesn't taste the best. I also used to drink the worst protein powders and pre-workouts when I was super in the fitness industry. It's really hard to face me when it comes to like tasting things, but no, it does not taste the best. FYI. They do have capsules as well. If you're like, just give me a pill to just like swallow, look, that is an option too. More power to you. With the adrenal cocktails, if you were just starting out with these, please start with a very small dose, like a quarter to a half of a quote unquote standard dose. You can have detox reactions from this. You can either feel like super, super hyper or you might need a nap right after when you first start, if you go too intense. We do recommend the idea of this is adrenal support, so supporting and regulating cortisol levels, and it is designed to help replenish and also bring you up a little bit. So people use adrenal cocktails instead of like caffeine because they notice that energy boost. So first thing in the morning on empty, they are better on empty, which is 30 to 60 minutes before meal and or 2 hours after meal. So first thing in the morning, some people will do it like a little bit before lunch or a little bit after lunch. Just be a little bit mindful though of how late you're taking it, because for some, it can impact your sleep. So just be super mindful if you are going to do adrenal cocktails, but it's a really great and easy way to just support your adrenals during any sort of time of stress, internal, external stress. I feel like my stress has been relatively high for many months now, so I've been pretty consistent with my adrenal cocktail intake. I do feel better with it. I notice more sustained energy throughout the day. I don't do a second dose. I only do one first thing in the morning when I wake up most days. And once again, I just notice some more sustained energy throughout the day is the biggest difference I notice. So just something to think.
Yeah. And again, like keeping it really simple as a starting point, just using a pinch of sea salt in your water is like a great place to start. I would say the adrenal cocktails are, I don't want to use the word intense, but that's what I'm thinking of right now. Or it's just a little bit stronger version of this. Like Megan said, it can go either way. Like you're either going to notice a big or more sustained energy, or it can make you tired for the starting like a couple weeks that you're doing it. So just be mindful when you're doing that. There was one other thing that I wanted to mention, and I'm blanking on it. Oh, supplements.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say there are a handful of different like mineral supplement blends out there as well. Obviously, we talk about magnesium glycinate all the time, but that's, just magnesium alone. I know Cellcore has a blend. I've never used it, so I can't really speak to it. They used to have liquid CT minerals, which was great, had tons of minerals in it. They don't make that in the liquid form anymore, but they do now make a capsule that I believe is sodium, potassium, and magnesium, but I have yet to try it. So there are some different supplement brands out there too, where you can get your electrolytes in.
Yeah, so I have done CT minerals in the capsules. I've done at least 2 bottles since they've been out. I will say they do not compare to the liquid version. Yeah, super unfortunate. You can open them up and put them like straight up into water, and I think they taste totally fine. I can't remember the exact ingredient list. I think there are also a wide variety of trace minerals in there. They're fine. I think I use them primarily and would notice a difference, if I did like a really intense sauna session where I felt like I was really like sweating a lot out and maybe doing some more active detox work. That I think they can be supportive. It's not something we actively recommend in our practice quite a bit, but not a bad thing to have, trace mineral drops from Trace Mineral Research is the...
Yep, that's right.
Okay.
I use those.
Yeah, so those can be really good. There's, there is one other company I just thought of. I think it's Seeking Health or Designs for Health has one that I think is fine. It wasn't my favorite, but it was fine. When I looked at it, so a client brought it up really recently, which is why it's like top of mind, but I think it was Seeking Health, but it's fine. Do you need these? I don't know. I will say once again, like I've been taking, the Shilajit gummies from Organifi pretty consistently, and there's a lot of trace minerals in there. And once again, I do notice a big difference with that. Now, is it the trace minerals? Is it other things? Is it, I don't know. Super hard to say. And I do notice a difference for me personally. And so, for me, I am staying on this pretty consistently, but at much lower doses than like the quote unquote standard or recommended dose. I'm usually just doing 1 a day. Usually right before I start work. So.
Yeah. You and I talked about this, but I still have some heavy metal stuff to do. And be careful with the Shilajit, especially the ones from Organifi, because they are potent. And I actually had like a little detox reaction to it. So you might even want to start with like half of one of the gummies if you're going to try it out. Depends on the person. But I do want to throw this in there. if you are a person who is drinking reverse osmosis water or distilled water, you absolutely have to be remineralizing your water. So in our household, we have a distiller. I drink distilled water. So we're remineralizing the water, every single time I'm filling up my water bottle. And that's why I like the trace mineral drops, just because they're really easy for us to use. But if you fall into that category, you absolutely have to be replenishing those minerals, because if not, you're going to start to pull them from your body if you're not replacing them.
Yeah, which is very, 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 very dangerous. Now, I will say most reverse osmosis systems, most, but not all, so double check yours if you are using it, has a remineralization process. Most, but not all. So make sure you are double checking that, because if it does not automatically remineralize, you 100% need to add in these trace minerals, and it can get very dangerous if you are drinking just like plain distilled or plain reverse osmosis without minerals added back in.
Yeah, do not drink plain distilled water. It will not end well for you.
No, it will not. The other thing I did want to note is the lemon and the lime. So I know this has been recommended to me on quite a variety of occasions as I was working with different practitioners, but and I know some people do it for like detoxing or whatever they're doing it for here, quote unquote, good for the liver. Yes, and this can also be dangerous. So doing either like plain water or warm water with pinch of salt, half a lemon, half a lime, you get sodium and potassium right away. Sometimes you can add in like a vitamin C powder. Please be very careful with this. So yes, there is sodium and potassium, there is potassium in lemon and lime. And while these things can be good, they can also destroy the enamel of your teeth. If you're doing it every single day, your teeth can really take a hit. And when we dive deeper into minerals, which once again, probably a different episode, we'll probably talk about teeth and minerals in regards to oral health. But I see this so often of, people are drinking like straight up lemon or lime water like all day, every day, or even just doing it first thing in the morning every single day. Like, it can really do a number on your teeth. So please just be very, very mindful of it. If you're sick and you want some warm water with lemon and honey, like, go for it. You'll be fine. Is it good to do it every day for years? Probably not. Your teeth are probably going to take a hit at some point. Same thing, like, don't drink straight up apple cider vinegar. Like, always dilute it in water. Otherwise, it's going to pull the enamel from your teeth. So just something to think about, because I do know like a lot of quote unquote wellness influencers who are not super well trained in actual holistic health do recommend this. I see it all the time on TikTok and Instagram, and it hurts my soul a little bit, because I know what's going to happen to all these people and what their teeth and what their dental bill is going to be down the road here. So just be very careful with that.
Yeah, it's just like, so I have like a 40-ounce bottle here. You wouldn't want to fill this with lemon water and just like constantly be exposing your teeth to that much acid all day. That's when it becomes a problem. If we're just like having a cup of tea with lemon in it, not that big of a deal. But, a lot of people, you're right, I do see that a lot, especially on the internet. So yeah, just something to be mindful of to help protect your teeth.
Yeah. Okay, so let's dive into like signs and symptoms of dehydration, because I think some of these are going to surprise you.
Yeah. So let's start with dehydration. This is going to surprise people. So, frequent urination. If you're dehydrated and you're peeing very frequently, most people, when they're drinking water, they think, oh, like I'm going to pee more frequently because I'm drinking more water. Not necessarily the case. Has to do with the mineral balance again. So again, like frequent urination, like dark yellow urine or pretty yellow urine. Another sign, lower back pain. Really big sign. A simple thing, in these, let me preface this. Yes, these could all be other things, but in the sense of we're talking about dehydration, this is what we're talking about right now. So lower back pain, definitely a sign. Extreme thirst, dry mouth, dry skin. Like if you have, even like like dry lips, cracks in your lips, just dry skin in general. Pretty common sign for dehydration. Fatigue, headaches, constipation. Those are some of the pretty big ones.
Yeah, the fatigue, the back pain, joint pain, I'll also throw in here. At like headaches, migraines. Man, it's, once again, like if we look at low-hanging fruit, yes, there can be many, many, many other things that contribute to these. And what if you're just dehydrated and just drinking some more water and getting the electrolytes you need to absorb that water? Man, can that make a big difference? I will tell you, fatigue is such a big one. And, even the constipation piece, I remember like middle school, high school, I'd be terrified to use the bathroom throughout the entire day at school. So I wouldn't drink water. Like, no wonder I was constipated. Now, yes, there was a major trauma piece going on as well, and some other factors going on too. And I was also super, super dehydrated. And sometimes that's all it takes. Not always. And why would we not try this first? Because it's so simple.
Yeah, and I am that person where if I get like really stressed out or really busy, I will forget to drink my water if I don't have it right next to me. And the first thing that shows up when I wake up in the morning, lower back pain, this is like a telltale sign for me. Or if I just get like a headache, because I don't normally get headaches. Those are two pretty common things where it's good indication to be like, all right, did you drink enough water? And as soon as I start to replenish, these things go away. And also, if you're used to drinking like 80 ounces of water a day, and then you go for a couple days without having that much, you will notice instantly. You'll probably see changes in your skin, maybe headaches. It shows up pretty quickly when you're used to drinking that much water.
Yeah. So water, I mean, it's so important. Once again, some of these things, we talk to people all the time who are experiencing all of these. And once again, not saying this is going to fix everything. And why would you not start with something so simple as just drinking more?
Yeah, such an easy thing to do. Some signs that anything else for the dehydration?
I don't think so. Yeah, I think those are the big ones. The other thing I'll say is you'll also notice like skin, also some hair. Like I feel like my hair is a little bit different when I'm consistently. Now this isn't quite as drastic as if you go a couple of days, you will start to notice like some skin changes. But I feel like when you are hydrated, your hair also it can look a little bit different too.
I agree. It's almost like a dullness or yeah, I don't know how to describe it, but I know what you're saying. I've experienced that before. Some signs that you can tell you are hydrated enough, so we talked about this in the beginning, but you don't want your urine to be like straight clear. You do want it to be just like a little like tinted yellow. If you're taking B vitamins, you might notice that your urine is like bright yellow in the morning when you first go to the bathroom. And that is just your body processing out what you didn't use from the B vitamins that you took. So that's a little bit different. Maybe pay attention to your urine throughout the day. Not running to the bathroom constantly. Like, I don't know a good time frame for this, but if you're you shouldn't be going to the bathroom like every hour. Spaced out throughout the day. Normal urine color, like that light yellow, good sign that you're getting enough water in. If your skin feels like hydrated, plump, another good sign. It's not dry, no cracking going on in your lips, whatever, or just on your face in general. Regular bowel movements. I feel like yes, it is a sign that you are hydrated, but bowel movements are such like there's so many things that can affect our bowel movements. I almost hate to even put that on the list because there could be, if you're not going to the bathroom, go listen to pretty much all of our other podcasts about toxin issues. There could be a lot of other things going on there. But in general, if you're a person who doesn't have like a lot of symptoms, no GI issues, a good sign that you're hydrated is if you're having regular bowel movements throughout the day.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good list. Yeah, there was something else I was going to say. Oh, the timing of the bathroom. I'd say like anywhere between like an every hour and a half to 3 hours, kind of depending on the person. That's a pretty good rule of thumb. You definitely shouldn't be going, every hour. Every hour and a half to 3 hours is usually a pretty good time frame. And I also just want to bring this up because we've worked with a lot of clients who fall into this category and talk to even more. People who work, specifically things like teaching, in a hospital type of setting, especially we work with a lot of nurses, and we see this a lot with nurses in particular. It can be really challenging because you may not have breaks. You may not be able to have your water next to you. You also may have unpredictable days where like you literally don't know when you might be able to go to the, or you may, we've had teachers in classrooms, which I mean, this like breaks my heart, where they can't, there's a 6 hour time slot where they cannot leave their classroom because they are that busy and cannot go to the bathroom and have to find someone to watch the class just to like run to the bathroom real quick, which is, in my opinion, should be 100% illegal. You should have to go to the bathroom at least once in the course of 6 hours, at least once, if not twice, for the average person who is healthy and hydrated. So, if you fall into this category, our recommendation is do your best. Especially with the teaching, most teachers are working 5 days a week. If someone's in the nursing field, sometimes it looks a little bit different, especially in more of the emergent type settings. They're oftentimes working 3 to 4, 10, 12-hour shifts in their week versus working like 8-hour shifts. So this can show up a little bit differently, but our recommendation is do your best. On the times, before work, after work, do your best as you can while you're working. But we do see this in those particular professions and people who don't have some of these unpredictable schedules where they like literally cannot leave, which once again should definitely be illegal, especially for people who are in our medical system helping, to treat people and then teaching children. You should be able to go to the bathroom and be able to drink your water and eat a snack and eat a full meal, like some of these basic things. But just because we do work with a lot of these clients, like our recommendation is do your best. On days that you're not working, like really be on top of these things and do your best on the days that you are working and do what you can with the resources that you.
Yeah. And this kind of brings us into, so we wanted to talk about like, how do we get properly hydrated besides making sure we have these extra minerals added in? So in this is tough because if you are in a scenario where like you're a teacher or a nurse or you just don't have the option to get to your water as quickly, it does make it more difficult. So again, just do your best, especially on your days off. So we typically tell people, avoid chugging water. So we don't want to be like chugging 20 ounces of water and then not drinking water until later in the day. Ideally, the best way to keep your body hydrated is to just be drinking small amounts of water all throughout the day. That's truly the best way to keep your body properly hydrated. And then, of course, we talked about like adding the minerals in, making sure you're getting that in. So in that scenario, just like, it kind of is what it is, and you can only do what you can do. So, and we've talked about like eating or drinking large amounts of water when you're eating your meals, how that sometimes that can mess with your digestion. But again, if you're in a scenario like that, it frustrates me that it's even like that. I feel like it's so not realistic just for the world to operate that way. And it's just even feels weird talking about it. But yeah, it is a thing. So if you're in that scenario, just do the best that you can.
Yeah. And, our appetite signals, this is something we didn't talk about. And I think we should. So, if you have a lot of cravings or you feel like you need to snack constantly, sometimes this is also an indication that you're dehydrated. And you're, once again, this can be many, many other things. And it can be as simple as you're dehydrated and the way it's showing up for you is cravings and hunger. And there are real signals in our body that indicate this because we can also get water from certain foods, especially like water-filled foods. If we think of like, watermelon, is one that I really think that just like is packed full of water, which is great. Celery is another like really common one that stands out. We also, I will say, like, by and large, we don't fall into the category of get most of your water from food. I think that's not realistic. Let's be real here. You need to drink your water. So, that is a piece. Yes, food can be hydrating, and that doesn't really excuse not drinking water. So just something to think about there. And, we talked about distilled and reverse osmosis. Like, look, our water is a big source of toxins for many of us. And certain areas are worse than others. I will say, I think it is, now I'm forgetting, I think it's uranium is pretty highly present in Arizona. And just like the number of hair tissue mineral analysis that I've seen and the uranium levels, I'm pretty sure it's uranium. And I'm also pretty sure it's Arizona. I mean, like, pretty skyrocket high. And so, if you're thinking about water quality, one of the best things to do first is just to get your water tested. There's also resources in like your county, like wherever your water's coming from, assuming it's not well water. Well water is a little bit different, but assuming you're getting water from like a city or a county, like they have reports that come out every year. And if you're looking for like a water filter and different things like that, look to see what the big like heavy hitters are in your area and make sure your water filter gets those things out. I'm like really hitter, like I go back and forth on this all the time just because we get new research in science. Like, is distilled the best? In theory, yes, because it's pulling out everything and then you add the minerals back in. Yes, in theory, it should be the best. I don't know. I've seen other research too, and, I'm not totally sold on any particular one way. I think some sort of filtration system, super important and super valuable for most people and their water. Reverse osmosis, I say generally speaking, pretty good. Once again, like, make sure you got minerals going back in. There are under sink systems, there are whole house systems, there are like countertop systems. So just some things to think about that, yes, there is a lot of value in getting filtered water. It's also really valuable to know where you're getting your water from and what is in your specific water that could be contributing to, specifically, we'll see heavy metals. This really comes into play with heavy metal levels. And it can be a lot of heavy metals. Think about piping too. If you have lead pipes at any point from like the water source to your place of living, that can get real dangerous too. And some of these, like, especially if you live at like a lot of like East Coast places, like this is more common because the systems can be older. But it depends on the place. I've seen it all over the place. So just some things to think about with that. And we do see heavy metal issues a lot come from water. Not that everyone does, but something to think about.
Yeah. And it's very different per person too. There's a company, I really like the quality of their filters. And again, no affiliation here, but it's called Hydroviv or Viv. I'm not sure however you pronounce it, but they actually, when you order a filter from them, they're using your zip code and they're going to look at the water testing for your area to see what is the most present. And then they're going to make your filter based on whatever those tests are, whatever toxins are highest in the water around you. So we have a couple of their filters and we use we have their shower head filters. We have them under a couple of the sinks. They're not crazy expensive. I would say they're mid-range, but that is a really great company who actually does a little bit of that work for you and a little bit of the research. So that's a great option if you're looking for a filter.
Yeah. So lots of good options. We have, like, if clients ask us, we have a variety of recommendations. I do really like that one. I think that's a really, really great option because once again, it does, does someone want something on the counter? Does someone want under the sink? Do you want like a whole house filtration system? And then what price range are we talking about? Because they really greatly vary. I will say, by and large, and now I'm not even remembering, the hydrogen water, I think is what it's called. You know what I'm talking about? That like they bubble it. I'm pretty sure it's hydrogen water. There's a company, it's about $5,000 for this filtration system. And it's like the best, change the pH level of your water. You can make cleaners out of this, da, da, da. Please be very, very careful with this. This can be very, very, very dangerous, particularly on your stomach acid levels. And stomach acid levels are super important. Be sure to listen to part 2 where we dive deeper into the mineral piece here and we talk about stomach acid and the minerals required to make stomach acid and different things like this. But this is very dangerous. And it's also like the amount of money these companies request. Most of them are multi-level marketing, which we have feelings about. Many of them, and the quality of the products, I get hit up I get hit up all the time for these multi-level marketing companies with garbage products. And not all of them are garbage products, but 99% of them are pretty garbage. And this is one that I've seen this become very dangerous. So just be very, very careful with these types of symptoms. Anything that messes with the pH of inside of your body would be so careful with.
Yeah. And I was actually looking this up because I've seen advertised a lot frequently. It's like this little system, and I think it has to do with like a hydrogen water, but it was only for cleaning products. It was not for drinking. So I don't know though. I haven't dived into that whole thing, but I'm glad that you brought that up because I have seen more and more like advertisements and this becoming popular. Kind of the same thing too. I feel like we should just address alkaline water because we're talking about this now. So, I mean, it's a sham. It's a complete marketing thing. I know there's people out there who swear by like I think it's called like the alkaline diet and all the things. If you're drinking alkaline water, first of all, we want stomach acid. We want an acidic stomach because that's how we protect our body from pathogens. That's how we break down our food. Like we need an acidic stomach. So drinking neutral water, it's just a complete joke. It's probably affecting your stomach a little bit, especially if you were like eating food and drinking. I would say that would be the most prevalent time. But in general, like it's a waste of money. It's another like big marketing thing that just doesn't make sense. You're totally fine and better off drinking regular non-alkaline water. So save your money on that one.
Yeah, great point. I'll also say, I'm now thinking of a few people who have brought this up to me. Calcium requires an acidic environment to be absorbed into the body. And guess what happens to most of us as we age, as women? Our bone density goes down, our muscle mass goes down. Calcium can play a really big role here, and people then start messing around with calcium. And once again, we'll like dig deeper into this in the mineral episode and talk about calcium and why most people don't need to supplement with calcium and the whole mineral balancing and bone protecting and why calcium is probably not as important as you think it is. But calcium is important. Yeah. External sources are usually not great. Usually we're getting enough from our food, but in order to break down and absorb that calcium, we need an acidic environment, and that comes with our stomach acid. And if you have any sort of gut issues, the stomach acid piece is like so big here. You do not want to mess with that. That is that's like a recipe for disaster for your gut health, among many, many other things.
Yeah. Heartburn, acid reflux, any GI issues, those top 3 things, like typically we need more acid in all of those scenarios. So yeah, just not something that you want to mess with.
No, not at all.
Yeah. And then just like, we already talked about distilled water and reverse osmosis, but as far as like diuretics go, and we mentioned coffee, caffeine in general is a diuretic. And then any like, soda, juices, all of these things are going to pull water from our cells and kind of keep us in a dehydrated state. So I know that the carbonated water, the LaCroix, like any pure carbonated water, it's not the same as drinking pure water. We're not getting the same benefits from them. We're not totally against drinking these things. It's just like, hey, be mindful. We don't want you drinking like 4 or 5 cans of carbonated water throughout the day and thinking that you are actually getting hydrated from it, because you're not.
Yeah, exactly. So good point. I'm just looking over my notes here as we're kind of wrapping up. One other thing that I think is just like really interesting, and I remember learning this and thinking like, oh, that's crazy. So our thirst signals, this is almost like appetite signals, where like sometimes we don't recognize when we haven't been drinking much water, we don't recognize thirst signals, and we kind of have to like get used to it. And if you're never thirsty, that's actually a sign that you probably have some issues going on. And also another important thing with this is as we get older, our thirst decreases. Not that we need less water, but our thirst levels decrease. So like really interesting. So if you are, on that side, just kind of keep that. What do you consider? I think 60 is still really young right now. So like, if you're 70 to 100 plus, just like understand that your thirst levels go down, not necessarily that your water level needs go down, but your thirst will actually go down. So just like that's something like just like really crazy to keep in mind. Also, I have in here just like early sign of dehydration, anxiety. Many people deal with anxiety, and how much of that is contributed to dehydration. Once again, like there are so many things that impact anxiety, mental and emotional health. But what if part of it's just you're dehydrated? Like once again, like low hanging fruit here. Like let's make sure that we're staying hydrated. So I think that's good probably for this episode. The other thing, just like a really crazy stat, like we can, and this is an older study, so I don't know if there's a new study on this, but at least like what we were taught is that we can go almost 8 weeks without food. Almost 8 weeks. We cannot go more than a couple days without water. So that really should show you how important water is to our body. Also, like, let's not fast for multiple weeks at a time, just because we can. But hydration is so important. And it's just, we cannot live without water. And it plays such a major, major role in our entire bodily function and if we think optimal health, this goes so far. So please stay hydrated. Make sure you're getting electrolytes if you need them, especially if you're eating a very whole food based diet. Get your electrolytes in, and this makes such a big difference.
Yeah. One of the foundations is hydration. So if you're just looking for a simple place to start with your health and making, an easy change, I would say hydration is a really great place to start.
Yeah, the other thing I just thought of is, we talked about constipation, but if you're on the other side, if you have a lot of loose stool, a lot of diarrhea, like that's very dehydrating. Some of our water is actually absorbed in our colon and our large intestine and absorbed into the rest of our body. And if you have a very quick transit time, aka you have to run to the bathroom after meals and it is very urgent, your body's not getting that time to absorb the water. So you do need extra water. As I think of people like without a gallbladder, in particular, who are not taking ox bile and have a lot of urgent trips. If you have, colitis, ulcerative colitis, like all kinds of things that impact like transit time. Yes, there are bigger issues going on too. Hydration is probably not it. And make sure you are staying hydrated because your body does need that too.
Yeah, you're processing it, you're losing water so quickly in minerals in that case that, it certainly isn't important. Is it the root of your issue? Definitely not, but it does play a role. Yeah.
So, okay, awesome. Anything else on hydration?
No, I think we covered it all.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. As always, please like, subscribe, follow. If it resonates, a 5-star review, it means the world to us. Thank you so much for listening and joining us, and be sure to tune in next week.